Good evening, everyone. Guys, the most important day in human history is upon us right now. The election in the United States is what I'm obviously talking about. So, guys, if you've not done so already, please click the links below and give us a like, give us a follow, and give us a share. So, guys, I've been doing this analogy quite a lot today. I've been given a Lord of the Rings analogy about where humanity is right now with regards to this election. The path that's in front of us is absolutely huge. Right now, we are at the Battle of Helm's Deep. We are Theoden, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and the rest of the is it Rohirrim, I think, that are behind the wall in Helm's Deep. The Orc army are moving closer and closer. The clouds are getting closer, and we are facing an overwhelming odds. We're facing overwhelming odds. We're facing a battle that it looks unlikely that we can win. A Trump win today would be the elf army turning up and showing support and saying, you know what, guys, you guys are not going to face this yourselves. We're going to fight with you. It doesn't mean the battle's over. It certainly doesn't mean the battle's won. But what it does mean, it means that we would have a fighting chance against this, whatever this takeover is. Now, I've been seeing in the polls in the United States, I've been seeing mainstream media saying it's neck and neck, it's on a knife edge. I genuinely can't see that from the people I've spoken to in America, from the social media videos I've seen. It doesn't look like it's on a knife edge at all. What actually looks like, it looks like it's going to be a Trump landslide. So if there's anything but a Trump landslide, I feel there's been mass amounts of cheating going on in the United States election. I just don't see how anyone without cheating, when you're looking at who wants to run your country, cackling Kamala or Donald Trump, I really don't see, I just don't see a decision. And for those people who have genuinely voted for Kamala, I just put it in the comments, guys, why you voted for Kamala, what she has done in the last 4 years that makes you think, yes, you know what, I'm going to vote for her. And again, I don't want to get involved in, I always say, actually, I don't want to get involved in other countries' political movements and their votes and stuff. But here I am jumping myself in with both feet. Why? Because whatever happens, guys, whatever happens after today, it's the end of the world as we know it. If the Republicans win, we have a battle in front of us. We have a battle. We have battles after battles. We're going to probably be looking at, like, the United States going to be having a war with Iran in the Middle East. The rest of Europe are going to be fighting against the Russians in Ukraine. If the Democrats win, I think the first thing they will do is turn the rest of the United States. This voting law that they've got at the moment, where it's illegal to show your voter ID, they'll just pan that out to all the states in America. And as soon as you pan that out to all the states in America, guess what? There's no point voting anymore, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because for every one person that votes, you can have 10, 30, 40, 100 other people voting. Cheating at that vote. So what I mean is, you can go and vote in one voting station. Because they're not checking ID, you can go vote in another voting station. It's that wild over there at the moment. I didn't really think that this was the case. Obviously, this is not all states. There are some states that you still have to show ID. I don't understand the system as much as I understand the British system, but that's as I gather it at the moment. So anyway, guys, so that's the analogy I'll give you. I'll give that analogy once more at the end of this video, but that is the main news right now, guys. The world is not going back. Everything's changing. It's changing at a rapid rate of knots. So what we're going to talk about today is the war with Iran, the up and coming war with Iran. Yes, in yesterday's video, I mentioned a few things. I mentioned the group Iranians for Trump. I found that group now. I'm going to share that with you. We're going to talk about those. I've also found the House Resolution 559. And guys, these things were set in law in the United States in 2023. So there's no way, there's no way now that there's not going to be a conflict with Iran. It's just the way things are going to happen. Now, it all comes down to logistics. I've talked about that many times. We're also going to be talking about what's been happening in the United Kingdom over the last 24 hours. We do have a little bit of a suppression at the moment because all eyes, quite rightly so, are on the United States election. Also, I'm going to go with the share map, and I'm going to show you the amount of sheer volume of ground that the Russians have taken in Ukraine. Just this last month, they're taking ground and ground and ground and ground every day. It's only a matter of time now before the Russians have a significant breakthrough. And by significant breakthrough, I either mean, I don't think Pokrov's is even going to be that significant anymore. I think the significant breakthrough would be the Russians managing to get to the outskirts of Dnipro, the city Dnipro, not the river. Also, the Russians managing to get up to the river Dnipro. So for those of you who don't know, I'll show you on the map later on, but the river Dnipro, it bisects the country more or less 50-50, east side and west side. Now, there's nothing there to stop the Russians pushing through. Absolutely nothing. The only thing that's slowing the Russians down is the Russians. So they're going slow. Then there's no rush. They're pushing on. They've got their military-industrial complex firing on all cylinders. They've got their logistics supplies sorted now. They've got their black fleet selling oil around the world that we can't sanction or stop. So, all this time, our prices are going up in the West. Our fuel prices are going up. Our energy prices are going up. By fuel and energy, I obviously mean fuel at the petrol station and energy, whether that be gas or electric. So, guys, let's just get into it then. Where should we start? Well, let's start with this group here, Iranians for Trump. Now, this is from, when is this from? This is from quite a while ago. This is from September this year. I for Iran, with, I'm not going to try and pronounce her name, guys. A group of Iranian Americans have launched Iranians for Trump, a movement to mobilize support for presidential candidate Donald Trump in the upcoming US election. Now, I did a video on this, guys, and I said, wow, this is very weird why this is getting so much media attention. And I said, look, guys, this is one of the reasons, this is one of the things that's poking out in the weeds to me, that's saying that you guys, America now, because I think we should talk like that. The Americans are going to be going up to war with Iran. So then you look down and you understand what this actually is. A group of, Americans have launched, a group of Iranian Americans have launched the group Iranians for Trump, a movement to support Trump in the election. Now, I said, and again, these are these things that I keep saying that are coming out in the weeds, and they're happening in real time now. So what I'm thinking is things will probably accelerate at some point. But once you need to put the foundation in, you need, like, for example, in this election right now, I'm very suspicious why people are why mainstream media are coming out and saying it's 50-50. It's on a knife edge. It could go either way. Doesn't make any sense to say that when everything I've seen, all the people I've spoken to, everything I've seen on open source media, it seems like it's going to be a Trump landslide. So one argument of this could be, well, first of all, one argument could be that I'm wrong and it really is 50-50. It really is on a knife edge. So if that's the case, guys, go out and vote. As long as you're voting for, guys, go out and vote for whoever you want and just make sure it's a free and fair election. The other aspect of this question could be the media, because I don't trust. When I've been doing these on these platforms now for just over a year, and the more I see, you start to notice things when you're looking at the news cycle. You start to notice like blatant lies and wording of things that people are just like, that's wrong. That's a total fabrication. But one of the things I'm really conscious of right now is this rhetoric coming out of the United States that it's 50-50, that it's on a knife edge. That could mean that in a few swing states, there could be some skullduggery, there could be some backhanded cheating. And if they're saying it's 50-50, the public will think, well, it was 50-50 anyway. So, it doesn't really, it is what it is. But if people understand and people know it's going to be a Trump landslide, then it becomes very hard to, pass that under the radar. It becomes very hard to let that thing slide. And remember, The best people in the world will be working on this. The best psychological warfare gurus will be working on this. The best psychologists, the best the best group psychologists will be working on this. And they'll be thinking, right, okay, and this will have all been done in advance. And the people who've actually done this work, they may not even know they're doing it for, they may think they're doing this work for to try and overthrow a dictator in a foreign country. So you would get in, and this is how you would do it, guys, all right? This is how you can compartmentalize government agencies. You can compartmentalize work. And, people say, how did they manage to get that passed? And, well, I'll tell you. So what you would do is you would go to a university or a think tank with the best professors, the best people in there, and you say, hey, guys, close in. Listen, we're from the government, and we're really good guys. And what we want to do is we're thinking, instead of sending our troops into these foreign countries and fighting these foreign wars, and all our soldiers coming back because, we love our soldiers so much. Instead of doing that, what we want to know is how we could rig an election. Just how, like, for democracy and for our side and to save the soldiers, how could we rig an election? And then you say to the students, the professors, the universities, whoever it is, can you work on that for me and think of what's the best psychological methods to do that, to rig that election, to actually get, to rig that. And then, these people work on it, and then they say, oh, well, hang on. Well, here you are. Use the American model, because obviously it's not going to be America that we're going to use this tactic on. But, just use the American model. And then once we've got something to work off, because we've got all the information on the American model, we've got all the analytics there. It'd be a lot easier for us to just, tweak it rather than use, I don't know, the German model, if you're an American, obviously, because we don't have the German statistics, we don't have the German numbers, we don't have the German, voter legislation. So then the professors and the students, they go away, they think of it, and then they come back with a plan. They present the plan. The government say, that's a good plan. Thank you very much. You have done a great service to your country. Those professors then get some sort of funding grant from the government, and they get to do X, Y, and Z for a while, or whatever it is professors do in universities that study psychology. And then whoever's in government, they get their cunning plan on how to rig an election. Now, I'm not saying any of this is true, guys. I'm saying that this is how, I'm speculating that this is true. Obviously, I'm not in America. I don't know what's happening. I'm just saying these are the things, and this is how I believe you would do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments if this sort of stuff could happen and does happen. So that's how you do it. And that's why I'm really cautious at the moment about this rhetoric that's coming out of the United States, about it being 50-50, about it being on a knife edge. I know American people are not stupid. And I really do think that if you vote for, well, I think Donald Trump is the better choice. I really do. I think Donald Trump would signify to the men of the West that the traditional Western values are not being abandoned, or at least for another 4 years. And I hope after Donald Trump, from what I've seen of J.D. Vance, I hope he will take over the mantle and be just as articulate. But anyway, guys, so that's kind of, where I want to leave the United States for the moment. Oh, sorry, one more thing. So yesterday, if you remember, I was talking about House Resolution 5. Where is it? Hang on. 559. Where is it? So here it is. So this is it, guys. This is what I was talking about. And I mean, I'll show you the actual PDF in a minute, but this is what it all boils down to. Can I zoom in? No. Right. So I'll just read what it says. So this was passed on November the 1st, 2023. It's wild, isn't it? How all these things, all these chips and all these pieces of this jigsaw seem to be fitting in place now. So I'll just read this out for you guys. It's kind of unambiguous what it means. I'll read it out, and then I'll show you the actual PDF and I'll put that in the link in the description if you want to print that off and put it on your bedroom wall or something. I don't know. This resolution declares that it is the policy of the United States to use all means necessary to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and to support the freedom of action of partners and allies to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. So what have we been talking about, guys? What have we been talking about? All this rhetoric that's coming out. Now, it's there. Can I move this? I don't want to move that in case it goes somewhere. So we've been talking about this for such a long time, guys, about how the United States are going to divert from the battlefield in Ukraine, and the United States are going to focus here. They have to focus here. This is where they're going. The United States will be going to Iran. Look, it says it here. It says it here, and it was passed in November 2023. This resolution declares that it's the policy of the United States to use all means necessary. Now, what do we think that means, guys? All means necessary to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. They're telling us exactly what they're doing. All means necessary. And to support the freedom of action of partners, I mean, they should scribble that out and just put Israel. To support the freedom of action of partners, we all know the one partner is, and allies to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. It's there, guys. It's been set out in legislation since November 23. Now, let me just really quickly, again, I'll show you this as well. I will put the links to this in the description. But remember, all the information, all the information. Oh, hang on, I don't think this is working. Yeah, guys, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Hang on. Yes, you can. So all the information is out there. It's readily available. We can all see it. I'll put the links in the description. And it just tells you exactly, it's got more meat on the bones to it. But that is basically, in a nutshell, what it means, what I showed you guys on the last, on the last screen. And that's kind of going to be the legal framework for a war with Iran, because people will say, well, what legislation do we have to stop Iran if Iran want to have a nuclear weapon? And then somebody will say, well, remember House Resolution 559? Oh, what does House Resolution 559 say? Well, it kind of says we have to use any means necessary to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And this is what we're seeing, guys. We're seeing these footsteps move closer and closer. Remember, a Trump win doesn't mean peace. A Trump win means we've got a fighting chance at peace after the war. So I'm going to leave it there about the United States, guys. I will come on. I will give an analogy, the same analogy later on when I'm closing this video down. It'll be the same analogy, the Lord of the Rings analogy, because I think it's important. I think it's, it's important for people to understand where we are in the world right now. These are not normal times. They are absolutely insane times right now. Anyway, so I'm going to go straight onto Ukraine now, guys. We're going to talk about what's been happening on the Ukraine front. So let's go straight to the map. It's not huge. Every time I click the cursor, it's going to be one day. I admit it's not huge amounts every day, but over time, look how much. Just watch how much ground they take in the just under a month, actually. Can you see how much ground they're taking little by little by little? All the time they're taking, more and more ground. And here in the West, we seem to be blinkered about it. We seem to be not listening, because all we seem to be focused on right now is domestic policy and the domestic. I mean, I don't even know how to call it in the United Kingdom. I mean, I think in the United Kingdom, we have become the laughing stock of the world right now. I mean, we have got a situation, and I'm just going to quote Elon Musk when he was on Joe Rogan the other night. He said, I mean, in fairness, Elon did get the numbers wrong, but we have literal pedophiles avoiding jail time and people who put Facebook posts online or retweeted tweets, they're going to jail. Like, think about that for a minute, guys. Just think about that. Wherever you are in the world, just consider that's what's happening in the United Kingdom right now. We're getting taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed to a state where nobody believes that. When the government come out now and say we're not going to raise taxes on this, nobody believes them. This government right now has broken the United Kingdom. People are really broken. My dad, he's sold up and he's moving to he's moving to Benidorm. People are leaving in absolute droves. And if you want to know what the fist of a totalitarian state feels like, come and live in the United Kingdom right now. And guys, listen, I want to caveat this. I want to be fair. I want to be fair, but I also want to be honest. So I don't think this is the case, but I have to be fair and say there may be mitigating circumstances behind the scenes in government that we just don't know of. There may be things going on behind the scenes, like, I don't know, like Professor Snape, how he had to make a sacrifice. But there may be things going on in government behind the scenes that we just don't know of. And, we that may come out in the future. I don't know. But right now, I mean, the most recent one, I think, in the United Kingdom is we had the aspiring prime minister come out before he was prime minister and say, I'm going to scrap tuition fees for university. We don't think that people should pay tuition fees for university. So everybody's, he won a load of, I would assume he won a load of student votes with that. And then once he's in power, he said, about that, about me scrapping student fees, I'm actually going to put them up. No, I'm going to put them up. If you complain with me, you'll be in jail. Oh, okay. So we just pay it. We're having these wars on driving vehicles, the road taxes going up and up and up. And it's very difficult for me to understand what the road tax actually is at the moment. So until until I have to go and tax my car, I genuinely don't know how much it's going to be. But the taxes on everything are going up, and the thresholds on which you have to pay tax are coming down. So people, and double that up with the food shortages that are coming in the United Kingdom. It's unbelievable. Again, if you guys are looking in at the United Kingdom and you want to know how to run something badly, look at how the United Kingdom run our water system. Look how we run our water companies. I think it was in the 80s when the government, I'm pretty sure it was under the Thatcher government, that the British government sold off all our water companies to private companies. And they said, right, okay, private companies, there you go. You guys buy our water companies and you run them. Privatization without competition is socialism. That is literally the definition of a communist market, I guess. Where you have one supplier, no choice, you do as you're told, or you get, if you refuse to pay your water bill, you get a CCJ against your name. So if brown sludge was, if in the United Kingdom, if brown sludge was coming out of your water tap, you still have to pay your bill. If bleach was going to, I had a drink the other day and it smelled like bleach. If like terrible chemicals are coming out of your water tap in the United Kingdom, you still have to pay that provider. If you don't, you get a CCJ, you could go to jail. So that's kind of how they've cornered and capped the market. And anytime you hear, any time at all that you hear the words international investment, what that means is international wealth extraction. Because when those companies invest in the water companies, we'll give you guys $1 million. I mean, just think about it, guys, all right? It is a win-win for the investors. There's no risk, zero risk to the investors. Why? Because they're always going to be able to sell that water company. The government will buy it back, another company will buy it back. It's like on a monopoly board. You're never going to lose any money by buying a water company because you have the monopoly. You have that, you literally do have that monopoly. So when you hear overseas investors buying the water companies in the United Kingdom, what's actually happening is our pounds is it tax if it's a private company? I don't know. But the money that we give to the water companies that's leaving our account It's going to the water board's account. It's then being given to overseas investors who then goes and sits in their account, and they will buy their Lamborghinis, their Ferrari. Well, probably not Ferraris. They'll buy their Lamborghinis. They'll buy their, their yachts, their aircraft, their G5s, whatever they want to buy. And that's where it's going. I mean, we now in the United Kingdom, we're really close to having the. I think is it the world's first. I think it's certainly Britain's first asylum hotel billionaire. So it was in the news a couple of days ago that we had. I will put a link in the description to this, guys. There's now a guy. I think he lives in Spain or something, and no, it's not my dad. There's a guy. I think he lives in Spain now. He's earning, I think, off the top of my head, it was like £4.5 million a day from asylum seeker hotels. So not only are we paying these people, but people are profiting off this, and they're profiting by the tune of £4.5 million a day. Now, this is huge money. So that guy there, the guy who's, who all these hotels are, I don't know, who's making all this money for some reason, will he be paying tax? Where's his tax money going? Will that be kept in the United Kingdom, or will that be kept outside of the United Kingdom? Do we think he is going to want to stop the flow of migration coming into the United Kingdom? Do we think that? Do we think the solicitors, the legal teams, the barristers who will get money off the government to support these people legally when their claims are being rejected so they can appeal that claim, do we think they want to stop migration? No, of course not, because they're all earning money. They're all earning money, and as long as people are earning money, then it will keep going. Donald Trump had the best answer how to stop the how to stop the migration problem in the United States. He said, I'll just put a 25% tariff on everything that's produced in Mexico. Done. Until the Mexican army is on the border stopping people. Can you imagine right now if Britain had the balls just to say, okay, France, right, you're not going to stop people coming over. I'm going to put a 50% tariff on anything that we import from your country. Right now, that's what I'm going to do until you stop it. What's going to happen? Remember, people do whatever the money tells them to do. People, and again, you can break this down onto the most basic fundamental levels. So I've got a friend. He lives like about 15 minutes away. I go to his house. I try and get there like at least once a week. We have coffee and we talk. He understands what's happening in the world. He really does. He understands what's happening in the world. He's just as concerned as I am. But the problem is he can't do anything. He can't go to a protest because he'll get sacked at work. He doesn't have the time to look into things any deeper or understand what's happening with the education system, what's happening with the political system, because he just doesn't have time, because he's working, not 24 hours. He's working like, 8 hours a day. He's working 8 hours a day. He gets home on a Friday. He just wants an early night and go to bed. On a Saturday, he wants to play with his kids. On a Sunday, he's getting ready for work again. And then Monday, it starts again. People are too busy with their own lives to care what's actually happening. Like in the United States, I don't think anybody will have batted two eyelids to Resolution 559 when it was passed in November 23. They'll have just thought, that was just a thing, just a law. What, Iran? Oh, it's miles away. Nothing's going to happen. But then in the future, people will draw this out and say, bonsoir. Look what we have here. Right, okay. Oh, right, so we can't, we can't let Iran have nuclear weapons. Oh, but what about the Russians? The Russians are giving them, all right. Do you think they've got them? Well, yeah, probably. We've got Israeli intelligence saying we have. All right, send the expeditionary group. And these are how things escalate. These are how things move forwards. These are how things go from one situation that seems benign and they escalate behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden we're in a global conflict of industrial scale and everybody's looking at each other thinking, how did we get here, guys? How did we literally get here? So anyway, that was supposed to be talking about the United Kingdom, but I was obviously talking about Donald Trump and House Resolution 599. So we talked about what we talked about. We've talked about the situation in Ukraine. We've talked about let me just come on to this one, guys, again. So I've given the opinion that it's my opinion that the NHS, the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, needs to be privatized. Now, That's a very unpopular opinion, and I get that. But what people don't understand is it's been privatized anyway. It's slowly being privatized. You know, I've heard reports of taxi drivers being paid to just sit on. They're being paid just to sit on site in case anybody needs a taxi. I've heard, about all sorts of wild stuff, about the NHS outsourcing and paying wild prices for things because they're paying with somebody else's money. Now, as soon as you stop playing, as soon as you stop paying people with other people's money, you're paying people with your own money. That's when you start to take notice of it. I mean, look at the tax system in the United Kingdom right now. We have got a top group of our top politicians. I mean, I look at them and I don't see any of them having any experience in the real world. They just have experience in theoretical politics. By theoretical politics, I mean in opposition, because when you're in opposition, it's very easy to be ideologically perfect and say, oh, we would have done this is what you should have done. And it's really easy to sit in the back seat and say, oh, you should have done that, you should have done that, you should have done this. It's very different when you're in the front seat. When you're having to make those decisions in real time, you've got more information coming at you left, right, center. You've got more stuff happening behind the scenes. Your donors telling you to vote one way, your constituents are telling you to vote the other way. So you can understand how, when you're at the back, it's really easy. That's what I mean by a theoretical politician. They've never actually done the job. Not only have they never actually done the job, I think I mentioned this earlier, guys. I look at the premiership in the political class in the United Kingdom at the moment, and they all have this air of self-righteousness about them. Like, I can do no wrong. I'm correct. Anything I say is right. And, again, I've got to be fair. That may be true. I may be the one that's wrong. In fact, you know what, guys? I'm not wrong. No, I'm definitely not wrong. I will be on the right side of history. You can guarantee that. So when we look at the class of people ruling our country, they really don't have any experience. And they're and when they raise taxes, because that's the only way they know how to make money, by taking more money off those people who are making money and then giving it to someone else. Is that what we do with taxes now? We just take money off people who are working hard and give it to people who are not working at all. That's not gonna end well for anyone. It's really not gonna end well, because those people you're giving money to, well, guess what? They're not the productive people in society. They are. I understand a lot. Some people fall on hard times, and I get that. But that's not who I'm talking about. You guys know who I'm talking about. So those people who you just want the vote from. You just want the vote because you want to increase your own social bearings. Those people will turn on you at some point. Those people will not be loyal to you. And guess what? If you isolate your loyal constituents, guess what? They're not going to be loyal to you anyway either, because they're going to remember that you took their tax money and you gave it away to other people when you said not to, when you didn't want to. They will remember when you promised to lower taxes and you raised them. They'll remember when you promised to abolish student fees and you raised them. It's absolutely wild. I mean, I think, I'd say I wish somebody would do it now, but I'm sure there's going to be more of these incidents that happen in the future. But I wish someone will. Well, I'm sure someone has got a list of all the things Keir Starmer said he would do, and then as soon as he got in office, all those things that he said he would do or wouldn't do, the opposite that he's actually done. So going back to the NHS then. So, like I said, if you're spending your own money, you always spend it more wisely. So when we're talking about, hang on, guys, I've just got a message. It might be, hang on, this might be one of my friends from, no, it's not. Sorry. So when we're talking about, spending other people's money, you always spend your own money more wisely than you spend someone else's. Now, I'll give you a a little true story now that used to happen. I think I've said this before. When I was in the army, I was stationed in Dover in Connaught Barracks. It's closed down now. It was due to be well, before we moved into it, there was an asylum seeker problem in Dover back in in the early 2000s. I can't remember the date exactly, but they said, you know, the barracks is unfit for human inhabitants. But guess what? 1st Battalion Parachute Regiment, absolutely fine. You know, we've got no problems putting them in there. So, you know, when I see these the migrants complaining about their accommodation because they're in a barracks, something deep inside me gets really, what's the word I'm looking for? Frustrated, because that accommodation is absolutely fine if you're a serving member of the armed forces. There's a lot of people on social media now actually talking about the accommodation standards in the armed forces. I should probably do a video on that myself, actually. But we was in Dover. We're stationed in Dover. If we needed to get to certain barracks, other barracks, so you needed to take some kit and equipment up there, you need to collect some kit and equipment. It doesn't really matter what it is. Obviously, you would drive up in Land Rovers. Now, the problem was to go over the Dartford Crossing, or is it the Dartford Crossing or the Queen Elizabeth Crossing? I don't know what it's called. Dartford Dun or Dartford Bridge. To go over that, it was like £1. It might have gone up now, but it was £1 then. There was no mechanism in the military to give everyone £1. There just wasn't. There was no mechanism that could say, right, you sign this form here and I'll give you £1, because everything has to be accounted for. So there was no system. So what they used to do in the army, they used to give every vehicle an extra 40 litres of diesel. Now, back then, obviously, the price was a lot lower, but you can see the cost, not just in time, not just in driver's hours, but the actual financial cost now of not being able to give someone £1. Now, that went on as long as I was there, and it was just what people did. You know, rather than go over the tunnel and give you £1, you just got given an extra 40 litres of diesel. Now, now that's how the NHS is being run at the moment. They're not spending their own money, so they don't care where it goes. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of waste. I'm sure there's a lot of, overspend. I'm sure there's a lot of people drawing money when they shouldn't be. So can you imagine now if a private company was in charge of that, and like you was in charge of that private company, and you phoned up and you said, John, he said, yes, mate. He said, and you say, I've just seen you put 40 litres in each one of those wagon, an extra 2 jerry cans in each one of those wagons before they went up the M1 or wherever. Yeah. Why did you do that, mate? Oh, well, they're going over the Dartford Crossing. Well, what does that mean? Well, I can't give them £1, so they have to drive round it. Well, that's 40 litres, mate. That's like a lot of diesel. That's like, for all the trucks, that could be like a ton of diesel or something. Yeah, but that's how it is. Do you think that private company would all of a sudden figure out a way to give those guys £1, save the time, save the manpower, save the driver's hours? Of course they would. So that's that, and this is why we need to privatize the NHS. I've said this, a long time, many times. The NHS isn't free. We already pay for the NHS. It's free at point of contact. Now, sorry guys, I'm waffling about the NHS. What I want to come to is this. Where are we? So this just shows, guys, right? NHS paid up to £200,000 in overtime to tackle NHS backlog. Now, what does this mean? What are we talking about? Well, let's go into it and have a look what we mean, and you'll see how the doctors are actually fiddling this. They're not fiddling the system, because that's how that's how the system's set up. But don't forget, these doctors probably set up the system themselves. Senior doctors are charging the NHS premium rates for overtime, as pressure to cut waiting lists is allowing some to make more than £200,000 a year from additional work, a BBC News investigation had found. That is nearly double the average basic pay for a full-time consultant in England. Many of the consultants earning the most are thought to be part-time, allowing them to work significant amounts of overtime for rates exceeding £200 an hour. So again, from this article, what I'm reading, that bit there. What they're doing is they must be on some contract with the NHS. So they're going on a contract with the NHS and they're saying, right, I will work the minimum hours, which will be 3 days a week. But in my other days at work, you guys I will charge £200 an hour and you can, I'll come in and do the same job that I'm getting paid normally for. So they're taking their normal salary and they're making money on the top. Can you imagine if this was a private company? Do you think a private company would put up with that? Absolutely not. A private company wouldn't put up with that because that's affecting their bottom line. And I get it, I really do, guys. I get it more than anyone. I get it that nobody should be making profit out of people's misery. But let's be fair, the NHS isn't working at the moment. I had an experience with the NHS earlier on this year, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I was shocked that I was in a developed country. It was a time when the strep was kicking around in the United. I think it was about a year ago, actually. I think it was about a year ago. It was a time when the strep was kicking around the United. Yeah, it was a year ago. When strep was kicking around the United Kingdom, my daughter, she got it. I looked on her tongue. She had the strep spots. So we went to an NHS hospital, and the first thing that happened, the woman at the counter at reception, she put up a sign saying, on my break or something, I'm busy. She then proceeded, while there was a queue of people in front of her, she then proceeded to eat her Subway. I think it was one of those meatball marinara ones, and it looked absolutely delicious. I was starving at the time. So I'm there with my daughter in my arms, and she's saying, Daddy, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And the guy behind me, I think he was drunk, but he was holding his arm. He was going, and he had blood all over his face. It was absolutely, it was wild. Anyway, when I did manage to get triaged, she sent me through to another corridor. So I walked through to this other corridor. And when I opened the doors to this corridor, pediatric care, when I opened the doors to this corridor, guys, I've been around the world. I've been to every war zone in the last minus Lebanon and Gaza. I've been to every war zone, every country that's been in conflict in the last 25 years. I've done medical assessments. I've done real-time casualty evacuation. The scene that I saw was like a third world country that was in the middle of a natural disaster or a conflict. There were bodies strung all over the floor. There was people crying. There was, people asleep. Maybe even worse. It was insane. Now, when you go to these conflict zones, when you go to these war zones, for want of a better word, war zones. When you go to those places, you have people cutting around. You have people moving purposefully in the background. In this NHS hospital, you literally had Karens walking around, just not caring, complaining that people were, blocking. I mean, there were kids now crying on the floor, and there were nurses complaining that they were blocking the floor. So I got to the actual room, the room where you should have been sat. The room was full. Not an empty seat. And some guy piped up. He said to me, mate, I've been here 12 hours. I'd go home if I were you. I said, what? You've been here 12 hours? He says, yeah, I've been here 12 hours. I've not been seen. And I was like, wow. Is this what we've been reduced to? And then, you've got to contextualize that and think, if the United Kingdom did come under a time of conflict, how would these people cope? I mean, it's all well and good clapping for your carers and banging pans on a Thursday afternoon, but are they actually doing the job? Can they do the job? It's absolutely insane, guys. It really is. And what you're seeing is people just absolutely fleecing the NHS. You've got doctors who are fleecing the NHS with salaries. You've got medical supply companies that are supplying to the NHS companies who are putting a premium on their prices, and all the time we are paying for this. We are paying for this, and this is coming out of our pockets. Guys, I don't think people should make profit out of people's misery, but I would rather have a system that was set up whereby in that circumstance, if I could have gone and paid 30, 50, 100 quid to go and see a private doctor, I would have, if there were those facilities readily available for me to do that. But the fact is, there isn't. Now, when I go to Ukraine, if I've got any injuries, anything wrong with me, I'll go and see a pharmacist. The pharmacist can the pharmacists in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, they can give a lot more over the counter than they can in the United Kingdom. Or I would go and see a doctor and I'd pay a private doctor, you know, and it's not much money. That's what people need to stop thinking. People, you know, the NHS have been paying doctors obscenely high amounts because it's not their money. Once you start paying people with your own money, once there's, I don't know, Ravens Medical Services. Once Ravens Medical Services has some, you know, I've got some doctors now on my books and they're charging me £200 an hour. I'm like, oh, okay. Probably not going to pay for that one, mate. I'm probably going to ask someone else who can do it for a little bit cheaper. And that's how capitalism works. The NHS is a perfect example of how socialism works. They take other people's money and give it to whoever they want, and it's nice if you're on that line. It's nice if you get. It's a good gig if you're on it, but it's not efficient. It doesn't work well. You need that competitivity. You need two hospitals. Oxford and Cambridge hospitals, private hospitals. Those two would be competing. Probably a bad example, but you see where I'm going, guys. You know, you need that competitivity, and then patients will go to the hospital that they get the better service. That better service, they will get more money because more people will pay, and that's how capitalism works. I don't see the NHS lasting much longer. I don't see the royal family lasting much longer. We spoke about it on our live earlier, guys, the royal family. In the United Kingdom, there's been a documentary on the royal family about how they make their money. The biggest thing, when these things get released, you've got to look at the information that you're being told without being told. The fact that they're letting this documentary air in the first place, that's a huge marker. That's a huge combat indicator. I don't think the royal family is going to last another generation. I really don't. It can't do. I mean, you're starting to get public outcry now about the royal family. I mean, the royal family, I didn't realize this. It's a bit weird. The royal family actually, they're huge landowners in the United Kingdom. So the royal family actually let the MOD, the Ministry of Defence, use their land for training. Now, they charge the MOD for letting them use their land for training. Then the MOD then use tax money to pay the king for letting him train his own army on his own land. Can you see the absurdity in that, guys? It's like, you know, can you imagine if I was to go for a walk in my garden and then bill myself and get the government to pay, get you guys, actually taxpayers, to pay for it? It's absolutely, it's insane. There was a lot more that came out on this, on this documentary. I think it was just the tip of the iceberg. But the fact that this documentary on the royal family was aired at all speaks absolute volumes to what's happening in the West, to what's happening in the world, to what's happening in global events. Guys, we are on the cusp of global conflict of an industrial scale. Just be under no illusion of what is ahead of us. We're going to look back at these times and we're going to say, you know what, we did have we had relatively good times back then. We're going to look back at, 2007, and we're going to say 2007 was peak humanity. We maybe a little bit earlier, but 2007 I'm going to say was peak. No, let's go before that. Let's say 2002. 2002 was peak humanity. Before any of this craziness happened. And then 2000, no, let's go even further than that. Let's say 2000. Let's say it all changed in the year 2000. That's when everything went downhill, I'd say, year 2000, because obviously 2002, you had the war in Iraq, you had the invasion of Iraq, but then 2000, and, it slipped my mind, We had the 9/11 in 2001. So let's go with 2000. Let's go with the year 2000 was peak humanity. Absolutely wild times are ahead of us, guys. We're seeing we're seeing the decay. We really are seeing the fall of the United Kingdom right now. I don't know if anything can bring us back. I really don't. I hope it can, obviously. I'm British. I don't want our country to be a shadow of its former self. But it kind of, I don't know. We'll see. We will see where the chips fall. We'll see where these chips lie. But guys, I said I would give you the analogy again to close out with, because if you live in the United States right now, your vote is more important on a global stage than it ever has been. And I don't mean that, as in just to say something, just to say something wild. It really is. Humanity is at the Battle of Helm's Deep right now. We're standing behind the wall and the Orc army is moving closer. The black clouds of Mordor are moving closer. Right now, we are looking at the abyss. We are looking at a fight that we cannot possibly win, but we will fight it regardless, whatever the cost may be. And if Donald Trump manages to win the presidency, then that would be like the elf army turning up at the last minute. That would be like the elf army turning up at the last minute and giving the world a fighting chance. Giving the world a fighting chance against forces of darkness. It's a long path we've got. There's lots more battles to be fought. There's battles to be fought that we haven't even seen. Guys, I've not even touched on the Falklands. I've not even touched on the roles and responsibilities of the European army when it's built, what everyone else is going to do. I'm going to leave it there, guys, because I've waffled for quite a while. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I hope that you guys know who I'm going to be rooting for in this election. I guess my next video will know who the winner is, and just good luck to humanity. I'm going to back to grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.